6. The road not taken. The sixth law of wealth. Dare not is one thing, cannot is another. Not everyone can be rich, but anyone can dare to. Somebody has to. Felix Dennis, British publisher and philanthropist. It's okay to be a superstar, to be the man in LA, but sooner or later you need to start owning things. Magic Johnson to Shaquille O'Neal. When Robert Frost wrote his award-winning poem The Road Not Taken in 1916, while living on an idyllic farm in New England, his life bore little resemblance to what most of us enjoy today. Most of the amenities that we take for granted had yet to be invented. Our country hadn't developed commercial air travel, television, talking pictures, traffic lights, photocopiers, color film, calculators, frozen food, antibiotics, insulin, a cure for polio, or any form of nuclear energy. The uniform wage for unskilled labor was a paltry 10 cents per hour. Yet, thanks in part to the thoughts and ideas behind Frost's inspiring words, we now enjoy prosperity greater than ever imagined. The slow progress of the early 1900s is over, and today great possibilities are rushing forth. Frost's poem doesn't just describe his feelings regarding his own personal choices, it contains a secret that lies at the center of the sixth law of wealth. Concealed within these lines is a wealth-creating formula utilized by nearly every millionaire surveyed in this study. This life-altering secret is so powerful that it can spell the difference between you living an existence of false security, engaged in the monotonous routine of performing the same tasks day in and day out, and living a life of power, possibilities, and control. This widely known principle could mark the difference between spending every waking moment of your life in neutral, content to place your destiny in the hands of others, and utilizing your God-given gifts and talents. This law separates those who live in a world bounded on the north by mediocrity, on the south by indecision, on the east by past thinking, and on the west by if only. By the time you finish this chapter, you will realize that the door to the Millionaires Club is open. Contrary to popular belief, it never was closed. You will grow tired of being characterized as someone who avoids risk and perpetually shrinks from the fight, or as someone who depends on others for his or her daily bread. Someone who is constantly forced to adjust, robbing Peter to pay Paul, living only for the 15th and 30th day of every month. Here is the single truth that will define the difference between you violating your sacred birthright or unleashing your hidden forces, standing your ground, and fulfilling your dreams. But no one knows when or under what circumstances this law will appear in your life. When that moment arrives, its demands are few, but they are binding and non-negotiable. Many a bright and talented individual died in poverty and relative obscurity because he or she failed to embrace this one simple rule. Riches within your reach. Isn't it ironic that every individual is a stranger to his or her greatest strength until some crisis summons it out? Some of the wealthiest men and women in the annals of commerce and industry, examples who can be found in these pages, never caught a glimpse of this slumbering giant until they lost everything, until misfortune overtook them, until every bridge was burned and all possible avenues of retreat were closed off. It was only then that they found a way out of their dilemma, a way to lean on their initiative. Many of the financial elite were forged in the stern school of necessity by the way of the sixth law of wealth. No amount of discouragement could force Mark Wilson to scrap his plans. Why? Because he saw the handwriting on the wall. When Wilson, a 15-year Dun & Bradstreet veteran, realized that the industry powerhouse was on the verge of outsourcing its call center operations, he seized the opportunity. I thought that would be a great chance to approach management about my alternative strategy, Wilson shared in an interview. I knew it would be risky, but I was prepared to take the gamble. It was a risk that paid off. Embracing the sixth law of wealth, in a 7-year period, Wilson has grown his company, Ryla Teleservices Incorporated, from a 20-seat operation in 2002 to more than 3,500 employees. and revenues have climbed accordingly, from $1.1 million at startup to more than $100 million in sales from 2002 to 2009. The firm's rapid expansion has not gone unnoticed. As of this writing, according to Inc. magazine, Ryla is one of the 5,000 fastest-growing private companies in the United States and is ranked as one of the top 500 African-American-owned businesses in the nation by DiversityBusiness.com. No amount of rejection could ever deter Sylvia Woods. She discovered the sixth law, applied the secret, and made a huge fortune in both money and opportunity. Born on a farm in South Carolina 85 years ago, Woods ventured to New York in 1945 in search of brighter tomorrows. She soon landed a job waiting tables at a local Harlem, New York eatery. Surprisingly, she didn't even know how to prepare coffee and burned herself trying to serve her first customer. But she learned, and 7.5 years later, the owner offered to sell her the restaurant. "I thought the man was crazy," she recalls. "I had no idea how to run a business." Pulling out all the stops, her mother mortgaged the family farm and loaned Woods $20,000. Scared to death, in August 1962, Woods took charge of the restaurant, changed the menu, and, under the name Sylvia's, began serving Southern-style home cooking. Her husband and 4 children pitched in, clearing tables, seating guests, and launching a family tradition. Today, hordes of patrons descend on this landmark that draws an international clientele. All wait patiently to sample Sylvia's spicy barbecued ribs, fluffy cornbread, and sweet potato pie. There's no limit to how far or wide the power of the sixth law can reach. Nearly a decade ago, Ken Brown discovered the secret, and not a moment too soon. Seated before an apologetic boss, Brown was informed that his position would be terminated. The cause? Corporate downsizing. Vowing never to be caught off guard again, with pink slip in hand, Brown fought back tears as he explained his dilemma to his wife and children. As discussed earlier, Brown went on to make a name for himself in a host of fields. Today, after the sale of his McDonald's restaurants, he spends most of his time promoting his company, Ken Brown International, as well as lending a hand and breathing life into the dreams of those who need to hear his message most, aspiring entrepreneurs. The secret was passed on to Lonnie Johnson, and once he received it, no obstacle or roadblock could ever quell his spirit. Johnson is a member of what seems to be a vanishing breed, the independent inventor. As the third of 6 children born in Mobile, Alabama, Johnson was inspired by the legend of George Washington Carver. Growing up, Johnson was quiet and curious, driven by a fascination with how things worked. As he grew older, he began constructing a variety of gadgets and contraptions, including rockets powered by fuel cooked up in his mother's saucepans. At 13, he bolted a discarded lawnmower engine onto a homemade go-kart and took it to a local interstate highway, only to have a bemused policeman escort him home. It was then that Johnson realized engineers were people who did the type of things that I wanted to do. Historically, engineering was hardly an obvious career path. Then, as now, the profession was dominated by whites. In high school, a standardized test from the Junior Engineering Technical Society informed Johnson that he had little aptitude for the field, but he persevered and, as a senior, became the first student from his all-black high school to enter the organization's Regional Engineering Fair. The event was held at the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa in 1968, just 5 years after then-Governor George Wallace unsuccessfully attempted to block 2 black students from enrolling. Johnson's entry in the competition was a creation he called Linux, a compressed air-powered robot assembled from electromagnetic switches he salvaged from an old jukebox and solenoid valves he fashioned out of copper tubing and rubber stoppers. His imagination was shaped by what he had read in books and soaked in through the television series Lost in Space. For nearly a year, he scavenged junkyards searching for the parts he needed to build the robot's base. He constructed wheels and used his sister's reel-to-reel tape recorder for its eyes. The guts from his brother's walkie-talkies transmitted signals to the hunk of metal and controlled its movements. The finished product wowed the judges, who awarded Johnson first prize, $250 and a plaque. University officials didn't trumpet the news that a black teen had captured top honors. The only thing anybody from the university said to us during the entire competition, Johnson remembers, was goodbye and y'all drive safe now. Johnson went on to win math and Air Force ROTC scholarships to Tuskegee University, where he received a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering before receiving a master's in nuclear engineering. He joined the Air Force in 1975 and subsequently held jobs at the Air Force Weapons Laboratory, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and the Strategic Air Command. Solid, respectable positions that made him a part of the scientific community. But at each stop, he felt that his creativity was stifled. In 1987, at the age of 38, he could take it no longer. He would go into business for himself, he decided, focusing on his own projects, which included a thermodynamic heat pump, a centrifugal force engine, and a pressure-action water gun. All I needed was one to hit, he reasoned, and I'd be fine. It all began by accident. In 1982, while debating the idea for an environmentally friendly heat pump that would use water instead of Freon, the concept for a water gun surfaced in his mind. Johnson had built a prototype pump, attached rubber tubing, and held the device over his bathroom sink. Aiming the nozzle at the tub, he turned it on and produced a blast of water so powerful that the mere wind from the spray ruffled the curtains. Wow, he thought, this would make a great water gun. He developed a prototype for his 6-year-old daughter, and rave reviews from neighborhood children convinced him that the device held commercial appeal. For 9 stressful and uncertain years, Johnson hawked his water gun to toy makers. After countless presentations, not to mention sinking close to $15,000 of his own money into the project, he finally reached a deal with the Laramie Corporation. Laramie's goal was to produce 100,000 units per year of what was originally dubbed the Drencher. In 1990, despite little advertising, the gun became an instant hit. Renamed the Super Soaker 1 year later, Johnson's invention became the #1 toy in the country. Today, the Super Soaker has been tweaked and repackaged with more than 20 different variations and remains a fan favorite. In the years since Johnson received his first U.S. patent, more than 200 million Super Soakers have been sold. Revenue estimates for the toy range as high as $400 million. Today, Johnson is finally in his element. He no longer operates in the basement of his home, but in a meticulously refurbished 3-story brick loft featuring soaring ceilings and antique wood floors. His laboratory, however, is a no-frills space, with galvanized electrical conduits descending from the ceiling through gaps where acoustic tiles are missing. On one wall of his office is a promotional poster created by the retail chain Target that features Johnson's face amid a pantheon of 19th and 20th century African-American inventors. Along another wall, visitors will find a row of plaques commemorating a dozen of Johnson's 100-odd patents. And hanging crookedly above his desk is a cheap black frame that contains an inspirational quote that has been attributed to Calvin Coolidge. Under the heading, Press On, it reads, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence." It was a case of being swept aside. Oddly enough, those who acquire this secret and use it often find themselves literally swept up in financial success. This hidden key was passed on to Manny Jackson, and he was more than receptive. Like every young executive, he said during an interview with best-selling author Harvey Mackay, "I made a run for the CEO position at Honeywell. I didn't get it. As an executive vice president in charge of mergers and acquisitions, I was well compensated. My office in the executive wing was elegant and contained all the trappings. Despite that, you know what stared me in the face every morning when I arrived at work? The fact that I knew I was being underutilized." To say that Manny Jackson is ambitious would be a gross understatement. Born in a railway boxcar in southern Missouri, Jackson lived with 12 family members before moving into a bedroom house in Edwardsville, Illinois. There he would accompany his mother and grandmother as they cleaned homes throughout the mostly white wealthy neighborhoods. For most children my age, Jackson admits, watching your mother and grandmother scrub floors and clean toilets would have been demoralizing, but I viewed their line of work as a learning experience. When I walked into these palatial homes, I'd go into the libraries and look at the books the wealthy read. I'd listen as they spoke and interacted with each other, and I'd watch my mother proudly discuss her duties and responsibilities. Believe it or not, I came out of it a better person. Jackson took up basketball, grew to be 6 feet 2 inches, and worked to perfect the jump shot that would become his trademark. At Edwardsville High School, he led the 1956 team to the state final, the only time the school has made it that far. Jackson was named first-team All-State and, 2 years later, became the first of 2 black players to letter in basketball for the University of Illinois. After graduating in 1960, Jackson took his jump shot to New York, intent on making it in the NBA. Ironically, he started in the National Industrial Basketball League instead, a collection of company-run semi-pro teams whose players were also being trained for the corporate world. When Jackson failed to make the New York Knicks, he decided to delay his business career a few years longer in order to suit up for the Harlem Globetrotters, a show-stopping all-black barnstorming basketball team. Founded in 1927 by Chicago entrepreneur Abe Saperstein, until 1950, the first year the NBA featured integrated teams, the Globetrotters were the only game in town willing to sign talented black players. Like many others before him, Jackson fell under Saperstein's spell. Apart from the fact that both had attended the University of Illinois, the two made an unlikely pair. Saperstein, the son of Polish immigrants, was a small, elderly Jewish man who took Jackson under his wing. As the Globetrotters toured the United States and the world, Saperstein introduced his mentee to a slew of high-profile businessmen and women as well as heads of state. Abe was a mentor, Jackson says. Outside of my immediate family, he was only one of a few adults who I thought cared about me personally. I observed him carefully. He was a world-class salesman and the ultimate promoter. Saperstein also encouraged Jackson to continue his studies, which he did in his spare time and during the off-season. Shortly after Saperstein's death in 1966, Jackson left the Globetrotters to pursue a master's degree in economics at the University of Detroit. He left the program to pursue a position with Honeywell, the Minneapolis-based industrial controls company. By the early 1980s, Jackson was managing Honeywell's Venture Center, spearheading its new ventures division. He thrived in this business environment, acquiring and restructuring numerous deals for Honeywell and building several enterprises from scratch. In 1986, he played a pivotal role in the creation of the Executive Leadership Council, a networking organization comprised of African-American Fortune 500 executives. The council gave senior-level black executives a leadership forum. 2 years later, he was promoted to senior vice president at Honeywell and recognized by Black Enterprise magazine as one of the 40 most powerful and influential black corporate executives in the country. The business and basketball cultures came together for Jackson in 1993 when he acquired the Globetrotters for $6 million. He had hoped to form an investment team to launch an NBA franchise in San Diego, but when he was unable to do so, he turned to his former team. To save the brand, Jackson implemented 3 operating principles he had used while working in corporate America. First, the product had to be reinvented in order to become relevant. Second, customers had to be shown that management really cared. And third, everyone within the organization, from the marketing department to the players on the court, had to be accountable. Jackson acted quickly to revamp the team's outdated operations. On the basketball side, he kept former Trotter teammate Tex Harrison as coach, but replaced much of the roster, updated the music and routines, introduced a mascot named Globey, and scheduled games against quality opponents. On the business and marketing side, he signed a string of marquee consumer brands such as Northwest Airlines, Wheaties, Sony, Apple, Reebok, Disney, and Burger King. To expand the brand profile, He convinced Columbia Pictures to produce a feature film profiling the Globetrotters' early days and increased the team's commitment to charity and youth work. The strategy worked. Jackson's rags to riches experience has convinced him that he can change people's thinking on the subject of race relations. I think the most significant element about the Globetrotters being owned by a black man is not just that I'm African American, it's that I'm committed, and I'm bright, hard-working, and I possess a vision of where we're going. I have the opportunity to impact nearly 2 million followers a year worldwide. I can tell people outside the U.S. about the greatness of this country. I can go into inner-city Philadelphia or St. Louis and give hope to black children. People now understand that these tall black athletes wearing those eye-catching red, white, and blue uniforms are serious human beings. Is there life after leaving corporate America? Jackson explains the benefits of the sixth law of wealth. Within the first 14 months after leaving Honeywell, I made more money than I earned during my entire 25-year corporate career. Both my net worth and, more important, my self-worth are at levels well beyond my wildest dreams. Youngest CEO. When Robert Frost wrote those insightful lines, I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. It would be difficult to think that he didn't have Ephraim Taylor in mind. When Taylor, a millionaire on paper by age 16, and less than a decade later the youngest African-American CEO of a publicly traded company, confronted the secret of the sixth law of wealth, he jumped at the chance. He launched his first business, a video game development company, when he was 12 years old. My parents refused to shell out $50 for video games, he explained in an interview, so I had to figure out how to program them on my own. While still in his mid-teens, he launched GoFerretGo.com, an online employment resource for teenage job seekers, after receiving extensive training at the Kauffman Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership. The company, now with an estimated value of more than $3 million, boasted a staff of 13 employees, including Taylor's former history teacher. Today, Taylor's interests have shifted to real estate, particularly in depressed inner-city areas. But Taylor's story really revolves around the subject of choice. Henry David Thoreau, the 19th century writer, stated, "If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears the beat of a different drummer." While most of us are not as insightful as Thoreau, each of us is unique. I may not possess your talents or special gifts or be able to do what you do, but each of us has the ability to choose our own path and lifestyle. You may opt to stay with those who bemoan their fate as they constantly point out the lack of opportunities, or, like Taylor, who from an early age opted to march to his own cadence, you may follow the desires of your heart. Perhaps this young black millionaire says it best. True success begins when we simply find that inner spark, that talent, that passion in our lives, and go after it to the exclusion of all other things. You can work harder, or you can work smarter. I believe the most difficult task is the work you are forced to do for someone else. There's just something mentally draining about it. While we should all be grateful for the opportunity to earn a living and support our family, it's difficult to get into the mindset that we're doing it for ourselves, when in reality we're working for someone else. Working smart really means thinking about the path that you've taken and analyzing if this chosen line of work suits your talents and gifts. As you consider this question, picture two roads before you. Call them Option 1 and Option 2. Option 1. Work 40 to 50 years for someone else and do as little as possible in order to keep the boss happy. After all, he or she is the person who pays you and who is buying your time. You're not giving it away, you're selling it. The individual buying your time is purchasing the hours of your life. That's why you are earning slave wages. You've sold out to the highest bidder. Along the way, you trade one owner for another. Sometimes they leave you hanging, struggling to find another owner to buy the hours of your life. Hours for dollars, that's all you know. Literally shortening your life by selling off the hours and the days, the months and the years. Take a couple weeks vacation each year. Show up every day at 8, go home around 6. Paint your house on weekends and try to grow a little savings account so you don't have to search for crumbs when you finally retire. If you retire, that is, and don't have a chest blowout by age 45 or 50. Keep your head down. Don't create too many waves. Don't worry, be happy. Sometimes the whole deal fakes us out so much we actually feel as if we are in control. The only problem is, at this pace, it takes years and years to reach your goal, and your treasure is floating out to sea more and more with every wave, every minute, every day. How much of your goal, your prize, will there be when you finally make it? Who knows? It's more uncertain now than ever, because retirement programs are being raided, Social Security is being gutted, medical costs are rising, and very few people even start thinking about retirement until it's too late. When you finally reach your goal decades later, you find just a few shekels stuck in the sand where your treasure was supposed to be, and another beach full of people ahead of you. Broken, worn out, broke people mostly sitting and wondering what went wrong. For those who choose option 1, life drags on, day after day, paycheck to paycheck, Blue Mondays to TGIF, weekend to weekend, vacation to vacation, finally retirement, then it's gone. Game over. Option 2. Make a decision to gain all the knowledge you can and keep growing. Think of this option as running on the beach and scooping up a few seashells, new knowledge, new skills, without missing a beat. You get tired, you stumble, but you get back up and keep running. For how long? Sometimes it may seem like forever, but you know you're closing in on the goal a whole lot faster, and when you get there, there's a whole lot more of it to enjoy. Not only that, but you notice the beach isn't crowded. Very few people are around, and they're all running in the same direction. No one is dragging his or her heels, wasting years in the sand. They know there's a prize up ahead. You get there after a few years, and there's this monstrous pile of gold, more than you can spend. Plenty to enjoy and create a lifestyle and a future for your family, and plenty to share with your church and charities. Just past this pile of gold is another beach, and there aren't many people either. They're all full of life and enjoying every moment. That's the rest of your life, and you're still young, so you'll be able to really enjoy it to the max too. You've won your race, you've claimed your prize, and you own your life. You own your minutes and hours, and you pay yourself royally. When it is all said and done, the only way to gain your freedom is to buy it. You can't lease it, nor can you wish for it. You buy it, and then you own it. You enjoy your health, your family, and your financial security. Think about that goal of owning your own life and doing what you love, from just barely getting by to living on your own terms. Now, you can begin to take responsibility for your success and failure, and your own life. Which option will you choose? What makes these millionaires' stories and their achievements so compelling? Is it the daring that seems to lurk behind their decisions to apply the techniques and ideas contained within the secret of the sixth law? Is it the apparent willingness of these men and women to leap before they look? Is it their amazing ability to hang on, to struggle tooth and nail, long after others have given up? What of the never-say-die attitude that can turn seemingly certain defeat into victory? Is it the wealth and value these individuals create in the lives of others? What about their ability to move at the drop of a dime when opportunity presents itself? What of their ability to see the unique in the familiar? Is it their grit and white-hot desire to do the impossible or to be somebody? What about their relentless optimism? As one respondent mentioned early in my research, if you hold any hope of joining this elite club, you must learn to meet hard times with a harder will. When I asked a young Detroit-based millionaire for his thoughts on the matter, he said, "I never think probably, only possibly." Dr. Shirley Bailey, one of the first black women to graduate from Howard University's School of Dentistry, shared her thoughts regarding pursuing opportunity and overcoming obstacles. After a 30-year dental practice, filling teeth was no longer enough. During whatever spare time she could find, Bailey built a real estate brokerage firm that now boasts more than 85 agents. Today, through her highly celebrated Las Vegas-based agency, she is licensed to sell everything from casinos to cruise ship condominiums. But Bailey's journey has been anything but easy. Listen closely as she offered me advice on the sixth law of wealth. When it comes to chasing your dreams, each of us must begin somewhere, and there's no better time than when you're starting off at zero. Why? Because when you're on the bottom, anywhere you go will be an improvement. Her words may seem simple, but nothing is closer to the truth. In short, you learn, persist, and adapt. Finally, what must you do to uncover and implement in your own life the secret that is contained within the sixth law of wealth? First, you must make a conscious decision that when your moment arrives, you are going to embrace and pursue this course of action. You choose to make the sixth law a part of your life. The sixth law does not choose you. The power is in your hands. And second, you must act. This law is as much about doing it as it is about thinking and believing. It's about seizing opportunity, charting your own course, courage, executing ideas, refusing to take no for an answer, creating your own luck, and being true to the dream that beats in your heart. Believing and conceiving alone won't make it happen. All the wishful thinking you can muster will not manifest this simple principle. Taking action makes all the difference in the world. As you continue to listen, I suggest you take note of Leah Brown. I doubt you can find a better example. The road taken. What if you were somebody and no one knew it? Launching her own business and filling a market niche wasn't enough for Leah Brown. She wanted something more meaningful. For years, Brown worked as an engineer and a lawyer before a personal family crisis caused her to rethink her career choice. She eventually turned her uncle's untimely death into a personal battle cry for improved health care. Now her company, A10 Clinical Solutions, wants to provide minority and underserved communities better clinical trials and research. Brown grew up in New Jersey with no real interest in healthcare or medicine. Like her parents, she originally thought she would become a teacher. Instead, she studied computer science in college. It wasn't until 1987 when she would discover her true calling. That's when her favorite uncle was diagnosed with AIDS. Though she desperately tried to help him, 4 months after his diagnosis, he was gone. Despondent, Brown reasoned that her uncle's doctors could not find the right combination or formulation of drugs to keep him going. This would prove to be the defining moment in her life. Angry and confused, she lamented that there wasn't much that could be done for him, nor was there even enough information available to seek proper treatment for those afflicted with the AIDS virus. That frustration, fueled by divorce and, after 15 years with a large consulting firm, corporate downsizing, brought her to a special place. It was here, during a trying time in her life when pain and anger can either destroy or inspire you, that Brown discovered this sixth law, a place where only this principle resides, where there is no past, no regret, and only the anticipation of future success. With rare exceptions, luck or chance have no bearing on the sixth law. It is simply a matter of finding yourself and building on what you find. It is being able to place yourself in a state of mind that makes the creation of wealth possible. What was her secret? After losing her uncle, her husband, and her job, Brown knew the direction in which she would turn. She would finally control her life and never work for someone else again. In the years following her uncle's death, Brown began to channel her negative energy into an unrelenting focus to form a company that could provide clinical testing of the biologics for disease that were impacting the African American community. 7 years later, A10 Solutions Incorporated, now A10 Clinical Solutions, was formed. A10 manages clinical trials for pharmaceutical giants such as GlaxoSmithKline and Merck. The firm also partners with the National Institutes of Health and other government agencies while specializing in research aimed at underserved populations. Today, the firm provides customizable clinical solutions and unprecedented service that eventually develops and provides life-saving, innovative, and investigational drugs to market faster and safer through the quality management of critical clinical trials. The company's revenue has climbed steadily, from $6 million in 2008 to nearly $20 million in 2010, the same year Brown was named as one of Fortune magazine's top 10 most powerful women entrepreneurs. Why get a job? I wanted the journey. Brown knew that if she was going to enter the healthcare field, it would have to relate to the law. That was the attorney in her. It was part of her comfort zone. But to enter the always innovative, always daunting world of clinical trials, money is vital. A fiscally conservative person by nature, Brown knew that her work would be cut out for her. The entire idea of clinical trials is intriguing, she admits, but if you lack the funding to keep things going, it could be a problem. So the big picture became, I had this great business idea, but how am I going to finance it? Brown recognized that if she were going to enter this arena, she would need capable and talented people to help guide her through the process. That meant hiring high-quality clinicians right out of the gate. The researchers who I initially brought on really cared and had a passion for the A10 mission. Some stayed. Others moved on. Those who remained did so through all the highs and lows, and with any startup, there were some really difficult times. There were defining moments when we had nothing, zero revenues for the first 18 months. But Brown kept plugging away. A10 eventually landed its first clinical study with Telecris Biotherapeutics, a global biotechnology company that produces critical care treatments for life-threatening disorders in the fields of immunology and neurology. After Telecris's much-needed push, A10 sought a major pharmaceutical company to add to its fold, something Brown calls a true sign that the company had arrived. Before long, the startup landed Merck & Company and GlaxoSmithKline, two internationally recognized conglomerates that placed her enterprise on the clinical research A-list. It was only a matter of time before other Fortune 500 pharmaceutical companies jumped on board. In the face of it all, Brown maintains that success means never having to say you're afraid. Fear nothing. Fear can cripple you and stop you in your tracks. 7 years ago, I knew where I was going to take this company and use all the knowledge and best practices that were at my disposal. Was it daunting? Yes. I constantly questioned myself. As soon as I solved one problem, I'd ask, did I do the right thing? There was always probing, always self-evaluations. But if you're not asking the tough questions, you are not doing the right thing. Through it all, I knew that we were going to make a difference. When you have an opportunity to do something special, to impact others, and to touch pretty much everyone in the world, why wouldn't you sign up for that? Why get a job? I wanted the journey. Finally, here's the secret. The sixth law of wealth. Why would anyone choose the life of an entrepreneur? Why would anyone agree to work 60 to 80-hour weeks with no let-up in sight? Why would anyone tolerate the headaches and aggravation associated with this line of work? Why would anyone willingly agree to be constantly berated by the doubters, naysayers, and so-called experts who know what's best for your life? Why would anyone relinquish the security, either perceived or real, of employment in a Fortune 500 company or a cushy government job to toil at low wages? Why on earth would any man or woman openly commit to bet the farm and place it all on the line, home, savings, and financial future, to walk a daily tightrope of success or failure? In the midst of constant activity, amid a swirl of interactions with exhausted employees, disgruntled customers, and indifferent suppliers, why would anyone sign up to possibly experience the loneliest feeling in the world? Why would anyone in his or her right mind embrace ambiguity and openly wonder where the next investment will come from or how to make payroll? Come push or shove, hell or high water, why would anyone choose to walk this lonely road? It's simple. As stated eloquently by Robert Frost nearly a century ago, because it has made all the difference. What is the sixth law of wealth? Do you know? The overwhelming majority of people will never recognize the true difference between wealth and poverty, between living day to day and financial independence. They will never sense freedom and fulfillment, nor will they awaken to their highest potential. A seven-figure income is a mosaic composed of very small stones. What is the sixth law of wealth? In 6 unforgettable words, thou shalt own thy own business. Toughest question in the world. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? This question has baffled scientists, researchers, and academics throughout the ages. To many, the idea of business ownership, which has come to be viewed as the most traveled route to financial independence, poses an equally debated conundrum. Are entrepreneurs born or made? Or specifically, can entrepreneurship be taught? Some people, including a handful in this study, say no. They argue that entrepreneurs are born. The hidden assumption in this argument is that there are only a small, select few who have what it takes to start, build, and grow a thriving enterprise. Yet evidence abounds that countless men and women from all walks of life are launching businesses at this very moment. The same people also contend that management skills cannot be taught. An effective or a good manager is a born manager. Today, however, the discipline of management is something that academia takes for granted. To further drive the point home, a similar debate surrounds the concept of leadership. And now, leadership training abounds and is second in demand to entrepreneurial development. Until researchers pinpoint the entrepreneurial gene, entrepreneurs will always be developed. As pointed out by David Butcher in the article, entrepreneurs, born or made, consider the long hours, lack of sleep, high risk, high stress, and often slow financial return. More than 4 decades of research has sought to answer why people become entrepreneurs. Until now, answers have been vague and uncertain, and much of the literature has assumed that the tendency to engage in entrepreneurial activity is explained by learned individual differences or situational factors. Although several Black entrepreneurs can be found among the world's wealthiest, all but a few in this study began their trek to a 7-figure income at the bottom, broke or with little to no capital or savings. Entrepreneurship isn't about who or what you know, it's about what you do. What do highly successful Black millionaires do? They work for profits, not wages. Obsessed with perfection, they are a combination of passion, commitment, creativity, drive, and a global perspective. And that mix isn't easy to find. Bottom line, they know what it takes to draw a crowd. Their behaviors revolve around 6 core strategies. 1. Desire for independence. Although research suggests that entrepreneurs are made rather than born, my data pointed out that those business owners who built enterprises with 7-figure plus revenues shared a combination of behaviors and attitudes that differed from those of their peers who presided over less successful startups. When asked for the top 3 most important entrepreneurial qualities, nearly 75% cited vision, 73% cited passion, and 64% cited drive. As Jeffrey Gitomer, a well-known author and motivational speaker, says, when you're in business for yourself, you create your own destiny. You write your own story. You design your own legacy. And, most important, you sign your own paycheck. I get to choose when I work, how I work, and who I work with. Being in business for yourself gives you the opportunity to work your heart out for something you love. 2. Deep sense of purpose. One of the successful transformative aspects about being an entrepreneur is that you define a moment, an age, or sometimes an epoch. Over the past 50 years, Black entrepreneurs have launched ideas and products that have changed the way society approaches everything from politics to business strategy. The vision and grassroots efforts of these men and women are adjusting the way we think and behave as a people, not only in the context of industry and commerce, but perhaps more important, in the art of wealth creation. How we define a generation is no longer in the hands of corporations and unions. Black business owners who have reached millionaire status are shaping this country, and those examined in this study have done their part to nudge our nation from a W-2 economy to a 1099 economy, from employee to employer. What are the secrets of America's greatest black entrepreneurs? The answer, in one sense, is simple. They are driven by a fire in the belly that makes the improbable possible. When Charlotte, North Carolina businessman Bob Johnson set a goal to purchase a professional basketball team, or when Cathy Hughes sought to acquire a string of radio stations, they focused on worthwhile and attainable objectives. I always keep my creative forces at work by keeping my eyes open, Johnson stated. Hughes, on the other hand, replied, "Everything that I achieved began with an idea. The secret of my success involves being able to distinguish good ideas from potential failures." 3. Believing is seeing. Black millionaires have adapted a new business model from find a need and fill it to imagine a need and create it. Refusing to bow to precedent, the most successful black entrepreneurs are people who are driven by an overmastering purpose and are fueled by an unwavering aim. These innovators are no longer content to supply consumers with products that are simply better at filling existing needs. Rather, they choose to create entirely new needs to fill. They know that the consumer appetite for new products is unlimited. Entrepreneurs like Damon John, Lisa Price, Cathy Hughes, and David Stewart have redrawn the lines of what it means to be in business. These serial entrepreneurs will stop at nothing to have their dreams and visions recognized. For John, it is not enough to launch a ubiquitous urban clothing brand. He now wants to create a lifestyle and experience around it while deciding which batch of would-be entrepreneurs to fund. Stewart's reshaping of telecommunications and cellular mobility has changed our world. Hughes has shaken a staid and established old boy industry. For Price, it isn't enough to develop a skincare line. She wants to create a lifestyle, an experience for an overlooked and once neglected market segment and create demand for a product nobody knew they wanted. These visionaries are included in the elite club of America's successful black entrepreneurs. These men and women who have left their mark on the world seized ordinary moments and made them great. Moreover, successful black entrepreneurs do not believe that the success or failure of their venture will be governed by fate, luck, the system, or other circumstances or external forces. They believe that their accomplishments as well as setbacks lie within their own control and influence. Case in point, one-time Tuskegee, Alabama Mayor Johnny Ford shared with me the following anecdote that epitomizes the concept of inner belief and self-worth. More than 50 years ago, he and Earl G. Graves, the eventual editor and publisher of Black Enterprise magazine, were riding down a busy Manhattan street when Graves, an entrepreneurial hopeful at the time, pointed to the city's skyscrapers. With a serious expression, he said, "See those buildings up there? That's where I'm going. I'm going to launch my business. It's going to be about blacks and enterprise. I'll be a millionaire by the time I hit 40. Johnny, are you coming with me?" Ford had political ambitions while Graves set his sights elsewhere. He found true success as publisher of a magazine that is primarily a how-to guide for black entrepreneurs and professionals. And yes, Graves was a millionaire by age 40. 4. Tolerance for uncertainty, the ability to take risks and engage in the unknown. Survey data conclude that most high-profile black entrepreneurs see opportunity where others see only risk, and also tend to be optimists who believe they can succeed despite the fact that so many suggest that they can't. There is a general consensus among survey respondents that each is committed to begin their day with thoughts of "why not?" rather than "I can't." Or, as one interviewee stated in the starkest terms, if you don't get what you want in life, it's a sign that you either didn't want it bad enough or you tried to haggle over the price. The majority of entrepreneurs in this study are convinced that the future will be better than the past, and they will go to great lengths to improve the present. 5. Iron will, sheer determination, and an overriding commitment to succeed. When genius fails and talent says impossible, when tact and diplomacy flee, when power and influence have done their best yet retire from the field, when resources dry up, when logic and sound advice call it a day, and when belief turns its back, at these times, iron will and gritty persistence step in and, by the sheer force of holding on, convince customers, win the order, close the contract, and seal the deal. With more persistence and determination than financial backing and a heartfelt goal of offering cardiac health care to many overlooked rural communities, Colleen Payne Neighbors, a former nuclear technologist, debuted her vision with a single employee, one mobile van, and a handful of freshly printed business cards. Her first attempt at launching a business of her own was met by mockery, ridicule, and doubt. But in 1998, and barely in her 30s, Payne Neighbors took the first step on her road to wealth, a seemingly endless journey that ran uphill. Consider how she was raised. 9 family members in a 3-bedroom house on a small central Oklahoma farm. Empathize with her as a college admission officer stamps rejection across her file. Shake your head in disgust at those who dismissed her business plan as a pipe dream, and come to your feet when she is named Oklahoma Small Business Person of the Year. Perhaps no one has ever battled longer or tougher or in the face of more opposition and roadblocks that would dishearten most would-be entrepreneurs. From the outset, Payne Neighbors was committed to enduring long days and even longer nights. Battling for what she believed in, she survived her first 18 months, as she described, by hanging on only by her fingernails. 8 years later, however, her company diversified and has been rebranded into Mobile Cardiac Imaging, MCI Diagnostic Center, replete with 9 mobile units, 2 diagnostic clinic locations, and a full-time staff of 24. In little more than a decade, Payne Neighbors' enterprise has evolved into the largest fully functioning diagnostic center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, closing a gap in much-needed healthcare services. As a result, her earnings have soared from a $40,000 a year paycheck to owning and operating a business with revenues in excess of $12 million. In terms of what it takes to build a multi-million-dollar enterprise, she got straight to the point in our interview. In 3 words, passion and perseverance. Though I don't believe or suggest that anyone burned bridges, my company forced me to grow up quick and keep my emotions in check. My once orderly life has taken on a massive change. I try not to be overly disappointed, discouraged, or depressed by setbacks. When they do occur, I view them as learning experiences. I try to see adversity and obstacles as opportunities and possibilities. I've been in business for nearly 14 years, and I'm still a young woman, and thankfully, I don't have to answer to anyone. But let's be clear, business is not for the weak. The story of Colleen Payne Neighbors proves again, as if proof were still necessary, that wealth and achievement are the predictable result of diligence, ingenuity, and perseverance. Millionaires behave in a way that is more consistent with their stated values and beliefs. They don't simply assert the importance of persistence, they are persistent. 6. Multiple streams of income. The one money rule that all black millionaires have mastered. John D. Rockefeller Jr., son of the billionaire founder of Standard Oil, was not hoping to save money when he decided to offer his 5 sons a weekly allowance. To ensure that each child mastered the 6th law of wealth and the true value of money, his weekly gift came with numerous strings attached. According to Nelson, his second oldest, who eventually became a successful businessman, philanthropist, governor of New York, and owner of the most expensive piece of real estate in Manhattan, the Rockefeller Center, each child would receive 25 cents per week, but was required to earn the rest by operating a series of family enterprises. To earn extra money, the former vice president recalled, my brothers and I diversified and managed an array of businesses, from growing vegetables to raising rabbits to marketing dry goods, to saving 10% of our earnings as well as supporting our favorite charity. Another brother, David, who would become chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank, said, "We all profited by the experience, especially when we understood the value of money and the most efficient way to earn it." Some would expect that Rockefeller's children, raised in the lap of luxury, would be spared such chores and trivial duties. Yet the oil baron wanted his sons to understand the value of money and believed this was the best way to convey the message. As a rule, success and wealth are the triumph of common, ordinary virtues. Rich beyond any measure, Rockefeller taught a specific pattern for creating wealth and the wisdom each quality contained. 1. Be prepared to work. Whatever you work to acquire, you value. 2. Know where your money is going. Account for every penny. Maintain accurate and itemized records of your daily expenditures. Whatever you can account for, you control. 3. Save 10% of your earnings. The root of wealth and prosperity can be found in saving. 4. You are not wealthy because you possess a lot of money. You are wealthy when your money works for you. Be your own boss. The sooner the better. Black millionaires never depend on one income source. Instead, they create a number of revenue streams. Arguably, here lies the quickest way to build a fortune. Though Steve and Pasha Carter never met the oil magnate, they certainly subscribed to his wealth-building formula. It would be too simplistic to say that this husband and wife team ditched promising careers to start their own home-based network marketing business just because they wanted to get rich. The Frisco, Texas-based couple felt stifled in their respective lines of work. For example, while growing up, Steve never recalled his dad being forced to punch a time clock. His father operated a court reporting agency, and it was generally assumed that once his son finished college, he would run the business. Pasha managed patient billing for one of the largest hospitals in the Atlanta, Georgia area, but she clearly had loftier goals. The former Atlanta Falcon cheerleader wanted it all, a fulfilling career with all the financial trappings wrapped around a loving and supportive family. However, what her 9-to-5 life provided left her wanting. Even after taking on a second job, she could not make ends meet. But for both Steve and Pasha, their prospects for the future drastically improved. The potential upside of a multi-level marketing startup tipped the balance. What drove Steve and Pasha, who were single at the time and did not know one another, to pursue the same opportunity from different parts of the country was a promise to be given the opportunity to finally master money rather than permitting money to master them. A promise to live life to the fullest and to bathe each day in the golden glow of enthusiasm. And most important, a promise to share their knowledge, lifting countless men and women out of poverty and altering thousands of lives for the better. Nearly 16 years ago, after reviewing the same multi-level marketing opportunity, Steve and Pasha each dove in. While he searched for the chance to carve out a business of his own, one that would offer flexibility and residual income and would not chain him to a desk, Pasha was driven by the bottom line. "I was asked to look at this business model during the middle of the day," she shared in our interview. Leading the discussion was an unassuming young man in his early 20s. Once I pushed my ego aside, it didn't take me long to realize that he was making more money in a month than I was earning all year. At that point, it was a no-brainer. I got started in 1995 and never looked back. Though their rise to millionaire status was anything but easy, each understood that whatever hurdles they had to clear or walls they had to knock down, reaching their goal would only be a matter of time. In network marketing, Pasha claims, you can either make money or you can make excuses, but you can't do both. Steve chimes in, for those who are considering a network marketing business, you should begin by asking yourself 3 key questions. Am I happy? Do I deserve more? Do I want more? If the answer is yes, I suggest that you begin to walk to the beat of your own drum and dismiss what others may think, say, or do. After making huge strides on parallel paths for the better part of 5 years, the two joined forces and combined their businesses into one highly profitable organization under the Five Links umbrella, a unique home-based business that offers a variety of computer and telecommunications products. Their seamless new team is focused on the same wealth-building core values: to broaden their audience and personally empower each individual who is exposed to their business. According to the Carters, successful networking is a skill that comes through experience and belief. From day one, they believed in the networking profession and never wavered in their conviction that they were going to succeed. They just didn't know how soon. But they are equally committed to a deeper cause. I want to show people how to earn more so they can keep more, invest more in order to live more, Pasha explains. In this economy, if you are tied or confined to a single paycheck, you are really unemployed. We want to teach people not only how to make millions, but how to keep it and pass it on through generations. Our goal is to leave a legacy. Collectively, their passion is to help others transform self-limiting beliefs into self-fulfilling breakthroughs. And the best way to do that is to utilize the proven ageless money-making formula at the heart of the sixth law of wealth. Create multiple streams of income. New rules of money. Fire your boss. Not so long ago, there was a basic recipe for wealth. 1. Start with 4 years of college. 2. Add one white-collar job. For best results, find a Fortune 100 company with a huge pension fund. 3. Slowly stir in equal measures of loyalty and initiative. 4. Wait 40 years before retiring. Forging ahead isn't quite so easy these days. There aren't many companies that continue to search for lifetime relationships with employees. Many aren't sure what industry they'll be in a few years from now or whether they'll have one at all. You could believe that your job seems safe today, only to find yourself replaced by software or a cheaper overseas worker tomorrow. Even in a reasonably robust economy, an estimated 1.7 million employees will lose their jobs each year. Moreover, seasoned employees with peak salaries will inevitably be a chief target of layoffs, and once lost, such employees are the most difficult to place. Each of us living with loads of uncertainty, adjusting and readjusting as our industry evolves, and putting in 50 hours per week or more in the meantime. Here's a prediction. Sooner or later, you will reach a pivotal moment in your career. Maybe close to your intended retirement date, maybe not, when you will want to look long and hard at the possibility of proceeding on your own terms, of living life without a paycheck. Working solely for a paycheck is neither wrong nor bad, but it is a risky proposition. Risky because as your paycheck increases, so do your taxes, and as your paycheck grows, so does your dependence on others. Countless men and women struggle all the days of their lives with no stronger urge than to acquire the basic necessities: food, shelter, and clothing. Now and then someone will step out of the masses, flee from the ranks, and tip the scales to demand of him or herself and of the world more than a mere living. This individual is determined to leave a legacy, a solid faith in his or her mission, the rooted belief that this is the sole purpose to which this person has been called. The greater danger, wrote Michelangelo, the 16th century Renaissance sculptor and painter, is not that our hopes are too high and we fail to reach them, is that they are too low and we do. The world's wealthiest and most fulfilled are those who rose up and refused to be victimized by anything less than their individual destiny. Job security is a phrase that our parents or grandparents frequently used. But in today's economy, the concept of any type of security, job or social, has gone the way of analog phones and 8-track tapes. Those who have retained their jobs must do more for less, shoulder more of the workload, work longer hours, and often forego any form of additional compensation. As of this writing, seniority offers no safety net and fewer incentives. So why not take the road less traveled? Why do some people go through life imprisoned in the jail of their making, the jail of ignorance, the jail of poverty, and the jail of fear, when the sixth law of wealth, the key that would free them, is within their reach. Ironically, human nature seems to have an ancient predisposition to say no. It is, of course, a conservative response, a status quo protector, a reactionary response that says, I'm trying to cope with things as they are. Don't rock the boat. Change of any type always carries with it the possibility of change for the worse. The social writer and philosopher Eric Hoffer, in his groundbreaking book, The True Believer, stated that there is a conservatism of the poor as rigid as that of the rich and wealthy. The poor are constantly engaged in managing their survival. Regardless of how bleak or limited their circumstances, they feel that change of any kind may be for the worse. As a result, they approach life on that level. The wealthy, in contrast, are quite content with circumstances as they are. They hope to maintain the status quo and keep their lives in order. Unfortunately, we really can't keep saying no if we hold any prospect of succeeding. Survival should not be your only option. It's fine for those creatures on the left side of the evolutionary chart, but for the man or woman front and center in the 21st century, ripe with opportunities, simply surviving is out of the question and the beginning of a long slide toward oblivion. Humanity requires much more. It is important that we enjoy our time in this free and open society and make some sort of contribution to the welfare of others. Personal fulfillment, a subject that is discussed in detail in Chapter 7, is the result of producing, creating, and serving others. Security? There's no such thing. There's only opportunity. For the business owners highlighted in this study, entrepreneurship is an endless adventure. For these creative souls, it offers them the opportunity to test their ideas, creativity, abilities, moral stamina, and, most of all, faith. Like some, you may lack the ambition, desire, or inclination to assume full responsibility for the outcome of your life. You may prefer steady employment. You may choose to allow others to fret over payroll and sweat over inventories, expenses, slow sales, and impending debts. But recognize that, by doing so, you will never enjoy the freedom, ownership, or chance to enjoy the fruits of your labor. If you expect to call on your greatest qualities in your finest hour, you cannot be risk-averse, which, for too many people, is the unheralded side effect of working too long. And when that entrepreneurial bug begins to bite, I urge you to place the new startup failure rate in proper perspective, as if budding entrepreneurs must be crazy to take the risk. For example, a 2010 Kauffman Foundation study revealed that nearly 50%, one half of new business startups survive the first 5 years. So whether the figurative glass is half full or half empty rests entirely on your perspective. If controlling your own schedule and income, as well as possibly joining the ranks of Black America's financial elite, is important to you, who wants to play it safe? The only way to create wealth, advised Michael Roberts in an interview, one half of a highly successful sibling partnership, is to vow early in life never to allow opportunity to slip by. 2 decades ago, Roberts and his brother Stephen couldn't find 2 quarters to rub together. Today, these African-American business leaders estimate their holdings, from hotels to real estate to telecommunication outlets, to be worth more than $1 billion. Amazingly, one St. Louis, Missouri hotel in their portfolio once refused to serve blacks. Never shrink from anything that will give you more discipline, enhanced training, or broaden your experience, Mike Roberts continued. Sooner or later, each of us must address the question, if not, why not? If not now, then when? If not me, then who? The answers will jump to life if you are ready to receive them. Again, Thoreau wrote, if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Closer to home, Leah Brown may have said it best during a recent interview. We need more faith-filled men and women who are energetic enough, bold enough, determined enough, and gritty enough to sign their name on the front of a paycheck as well as the back. It is you who must develop a deep desire for independence as well as a proclivity to act if you are to pave a new road to your financial future. Remember, the teaching is in the words, but the learning is in the silence. I now urge you to move boldly and take the first step on the road to the sixth law of wealth. Thou shalt own thy own business. Millionaire Lesson Number 7. We need faith-filled men and women who are energetic enough, bold enough, determined enough, and gritty enough to sign their name on the front of a paycheck as well as the back. Leah Brown.